Hello everyone. Today we're diving into a very recent and very disturbing case involving the son of a very powerful Hollywood movie exec who is being accused of murdering 3 people. So buckle up for this one. 35-year-old Samuel Haskell IV, also known as Sam Haskell Jr., is the son of former William Morris Agency Executive Vice President Samuel Haskell III, who's represented celebrities such as Dolly Parton, George Clooney, Whoopi Goldberg, and even King Charles's brother, Prince Edward. His mother, Mary, is an actress. So as you can see, he comes from a line of very successful Hollywood personnel. In November of 2023, Sam and his wife, 37-year-old May, were living in a 6-bedroom home in Tarzana, California, which is just east of Calabasas. They also had 3 young children, and May's parents also lived with them, which was 71-year-old Gao Shan and his wife, 64-year-old Yang Sayang. Now here's where the issue lies, because Sam's wife and his in-laws would last be seen alive on November 6th. And the very next day, Sam began to make some very strange decisions. Sam would end up hiring 4 day laborers and offering them $500 to remove some very heavy black trash bags from his home. Now, when the laborers ended up picking up these bags, they realized they were very heavy, and Sam ended up telling them, don't worry, they're just full of rocks. However, something wasn't sitting right with these day laborers, because Sam said the bags were full of rocks, but the bags felt very soft and soggy, which is the opposite of how they would feel if there were rocks inside. So after driving several blocks away with these bags, the laborers ended up pulling over because they just felt like something was wrong. And they decided they wanted to inspect these bags to just see what actually was inside of them. And when they ended up opening up one of the bags and looking inside, they seen what they thought was a belly button. And when they seen that, they realized what Sam had essentially tricked them into doing, and they wanted no part of this. So they ended up driving back to Sam's house, dropped the bags in his driveway, and told him that they wanted nothing to do with this, they didn't want his money, and they give it back. One worker sang, and I quote, "I was astonished. Of course I felt bad. We had been tricked." End quote. Now, at this point, Sam tried to fix the situation by just telling the laborers that they were overreacting, that there were just Halloween props inside the bags, but the workers were done. They did not want to be involved, and they left. Now, as soon as the laborers ended up leaving, they went straight to reporting this to the police, and they told the police that they thought they seen what looked like a body inside of some black bags. And they also indicated the area of where this happened. So when officers ended up arriving at Sam Haskell's home, they ended up actually finding no evidence at the scene. There were no bags there were no bodies, so they ended up leaving because they couldn't really do anything at this point. However, surveillance footage would end up showing someone pulling into a parking lot, getting out of their vehicle near a dumpster, and struggling to carry some very heavy-looking large black bags to this dumpster. Around 6 a.m. the next morning, which was now November 8th, a homeless man who would begin dumpster diving in that very same dumpster would end up discovering a human torso inside of a black garbage bag. So this homeless man ended up reporting it to police, and police ended up connecting the dots from the days prior when they got this report of someone trying to pawn off these garbage bags full of what looked like body parts, and they connected that to this man now finding a body part in a dumpster, and they went straight back to Sam Haskell's home. Now, when investigators went into the home, they were unable to locate May or her parents. A detective saying, and I quote, "The reason we're concerned with their whereabouts is that they would normally be home during these hours. Attempts have been made to contact them by cell phone, no answer. Same with May. She's unaccounted for. Attempts have been made to call her phone and still no answer." End quote. Now, when authorities went into the home and also started looking for signs of a struggle or any evidence, they would end up coming across what looked like large amounts of blood in the home. And they also found other evidence that suggested that May and her parents had not only been murdered, but they'd also been dismembered. And at this point in time, they believed that the torso ended up belonging to May. However, other body parts have not been found, and both of May's parents' bodies have still not been found till this day. So Sam ended up being arrested 4 days later. May and her parents had already not been found and been reported missing, but where were the children? Now, thankfully, the 3 children would end up being found safe and alive, which is amazing because a lot of times cases like this, there aren't survivors in it. And I'm so grateful that the children ended up being found alive and safe and well, and they were actually found at school, and they were taken into DCFS's custody, and then later they were placed in, I'm pretty sure it was Sam's parents' care. So now Sam is in jail, and he is being charged with 3 counts of murder with special circumstances and being held on a $2 million bail. But who is Sam really? Why would he want to kill his wife and his in-laws? Now, it really does seem like Sam Jr. was trying to make his way in the Hollywood scene, as his parents had had done, but he didn't seem to be as successful as them. According to Sam's IMDb, he is known as directing a few low-budget slasher films that often featured violent fight scenes and fetishized Asian women, his wife also being of Asian descent, so that's a interesting correlation there. Now, despite what he had kind of tried to make his career, he had allegedly told a friend that he couldn't handle seeing chopped up bodies in horror movies, and he described the violence as being hard for him to enjoy. But he seemed to really like horror films because he was directing them, and he also would watch them quite often because, according to TMZ, who obtained Instagram messages that Sam had sent his former personal trainer, they had discussed the horror movie The Forever Purge, which is part of the Purge series, which is a series of horror films. Sam saying, and I quote, "Forever Purge is a little different. Fools really be getting chopped up in Mexico for real. It's hard for me to enjoy a movie about it. I'm down for Purge 2 Anarchy," end quote. So there's kind of a contradiction in Sam's ideology of horror movies, because why are you directing them then and doing all these gruesome horror scenes and stuff if you don't like horror? It's just weird to me. And now, considering he's saying he doesn't like bodies being chopped up and he doesn't like any of this gruesomeness, but his wife and in-laws are missing, and it's assumed his wife's torso was in a black garbage bag that he was trying to pawn off. Little contradictory there, Sam. Now, this former personal trainer was asked about Sam, and he would end up telling the media that he still kept in touch with Sam over the years. He said that Sam was very troubled. Now, when neighbors were asked about Sam and his family, he would end up saying that Sam was extremely obsessed with samurai swords, guns, and martial arts. And Sam also seems to have a history of violence, because in December of 2008, Sam was arrested and charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. He'd also end up pleading no contest to battery, and he was placed on 3 years of probation in 2010. Friends of Sam have also described him as being paranoid prior to his arrest, saying that in childhood he pulled a machete on a childhood friend. Now, when it gets to May's family and friends, they have a lot to say about Sam that is not positive, and they described Sam as weird and said that he had the same creepy vibe as Jeffrey Dahmer. One friend saying, and I quote, "He would walk really fast with his head down, rarely look up, and never made eye contact. He would make these sudden moves with his arms and just blurt things out." End quote. So when you stack all of what people had to say about Sam, how he was this very strange, kind of violent person that acted really weird, and then added up to the events leading up before his arrest, where he was trying to pay off these laborers to take garbage bags away, which in my opinion seems kind of like, what is that, guilt knowledge? Something along there. I just don't see how it could have been anyone else other than Sam that could have committed these murders. But we still don't know why Sam would just snap and murder his wife and in-laws. But we may seem to have a motive, because according to reports, May had told her friends for years that she wanted to divorce Sam, citing that he was abusive to her and had hit her before. One of May's friends saying, and I quote, "May first brought up a divorce when I was getting one in 2019. I told her she could do it, but she just felt like she couldn't risk losing her boys." End quote. Now, May was allegedly very frightened of Sam, but she was also more frightened of divorcing Sam because she didn't want to lose her children, because his father was this powerful, rich movie executive. And she thought if she divorced him that, her and her family didn't have all of this money like his family had, and that they would take her to court and she would lose her children. So May essentially felt trapped in an abusive relationship. This friend also said that Sam actually didn't get along with his in-laws whatsoever after they had moved in to help with the children. Sam was allegedly very rude to them, and they didn't speak English, and Sam apparently put no effort into trying to communicate with them and interact with them, and they allegedly made him very angry. Not the fact that he wasn't putting in any effort, which I feel like I've seen this happen in relationships before, and I always find it so strange. When someone marries someone who is from a different country and speaks a different language, and then they put no effort into learning that person's language and their culture and their history as well, it's just weird to me, and it just feels like something's off when that happens. Like, he didn't even put any effort to, pull up Google Translate and have a conversation with them, it seems. He seemed to just not interact with them, and when he did, he just seemed to be very nonchalant about it, like he didn't care about them whatsoever. And that apparently made him angry, which is just wild to me that someone wouldn't put effort into that. Like, with today's technology, you could just pull up anything on your phone and have a conversation with someone if you can't speak their language. But a week before May and her parents ended up disappearing, a neighbor would report seeing May taking her kids to school and said that she looked really different than usual, saying she looked very somber, sad, and upset about something, which was strange because everyone seemed to have known May as a very outgoing person who loved planning parties and having dinners with friends. Friends also began to suspect that something was wrong when May ended up missing a dinner she had planned with one of her friends and stopped responding to any messages. After these events on November 7th, a neighbor reported smelling a strange odor that smelled like rotting flesh, and he assumed it was just an animal that had got caught somewhere and died. However, later that night, police would end up showing up at Sam Haskell's home, asking him questions about his family and their whereabouts. Later that night, the neighbor's oldest daughter would end up texting a babysitter saying that she heard what sounded like a child yelling hello and help, then hearing a car door slam and loud screeching from the vehicle. The following day, one of May's closest friends was outside of her home when police ended up arriving. The neighbor saying, and I quote, "He looked completely pale and he said to me, 'Yeah, there's something really wrong here.'" End quote. Let's talk about May for a moment, because May was known as a very loving mother, a kind person who would help anyone in a moment's notice. She also translated for her Chinese-speaking parents so that they could communicate with the neighborhood and their friends. Neighbors also said that May was just one of those people who loved giving out gifts and making plans. As I said earlier, she was very outgoing. She loved to throw parties. She loved to hang out with her friends and the neighbors. May was just so giving that at one point when the neighbor's water heater broke, she offered for them to use her shower until they got it fixed. It was also said that May's mother ended up suffering a stroke before she moved into the home and would frequently walk up and down the street as she recovered, so neighbors would always see her out there and they'd always chat. And they said that May's parents also loved her grandchildren so much, and May loved her children. So it does seem like this case is leading to what seems like another family annihilation and a senseless tragedy and an example of DV that happens way too often. And I'm really interested to see more details coming out in this, and if Sam offers up any reasoning to why he did this. And I say that he did this, I guess allegedly did this, but I don't see how it could have been anyone else, you know? On December 8th, which was just a couple weeks ago as I'm filming this video, Sam ended up making his first public appearance. And it was an odd one to say the least. He was actually wearing an anti-unaliving smock that they put on inmates, and it ended up having a malfunction. So I guess the Velcro gave out and it ended up falling down. So when he appeared in court, he was just shirtless. He was bare-chested, all his tattoos were out, and it was just odd because it's definitely something that doesn't usually happen in court. And it was also weird because he was holding this little clear plastic baggie that had a small milk carton and some snacks in there. It was just a very odd court appearance, and it made him look very disheveled and like kind of crazy, which maybe that's what his defense might try to go towards. But from what we've heard from neighbors and friends and family, Sam is a really odd guy, and they even compared him to Jeffrey Dahmer. So now this appearance didn't work out the way that everyone thought it was going to. His arraignment has actually now been postponed until January 12th of 2024. And this was after he ended up making a last minute switch of his defense team. And at this time, detectives are still investigating, and they're currently looking for two missing vehicles, a white Volkswagen Tiguan and a white 2014 Nissan Pathfinder. So if you have any information on these vehicles or anything else to do with this case, I'm going to have all the contact information for the Los Angeles Police Department linked down below. I'm actually going to be flying to Florida on the day of his arraignment, but if anything interesting comes of his arraignment, I will definitely try to cover it. I don't think there's any question of whether Sam did this or not. Again, there's just so much evidence and it's very damning. But I feel like there's more information that's definitely going to come out here. But what did he do with the rest of those bags? Where did he go after? We've seen, there was one case, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the case. I can't remember who it involved, but I remember the case where he ended up dismembering someone and dropping off the body parts in different dumpsters and garbage cans. So I'm wondering if that's what Sam did. And maybe some of these dumpsters and garbages went to different landfills and stuff. But that's my best guess, is that he disposed of the rest of the body parts elsewhere and they just haven't been able to find them yet because maybe they've been taken to landfills or taken somewhere else. Honestly, I don't think the Sam Haskell guy is very smart considering what he did. But this is just a very tragic case. These children are now without their mother and their grandparents because of one man's decision to take them out for little to no reason. Honestly, these cases always, there's no reasoning for why this happens. It's usually, again, DV. Sam seemed to be a very violent and hateful person, in my opinion. Just the way that he's talked about feeling about his in-laws and just his attitude and the way he interacted with people just seemed very odd. Everyone seemed to say he was troubled. So it's just a very tragic case all around. May and her parents did not deserve this. And the real tragic part of this is that May didn't feel like she could leave. And that is a huge issue. She was so terrified of losing her children that she decided to stay with a violent person because she was scared that their money would overpower her love for her children. And that's just, it's tragic and it's awful. It makes you wonder, did Sam end up snapping because May ended up getting the courage to tell him that she wanted to leave, and he basically was like, no, you're not. And he took them out that way because of that. What made him finally snap and do this is the real question here. But what do you all think? Let's have a chat down below. And of course, if you have any information, please contact the Los Angeles Police Department. I'll have all that information linked down below. If anyone out there in that area also owns a business that may have surveillance, definitely recommend checking out your surveillance footage if it can go that far back, and just look and see if you see anything on there. Let the police know if you do see something that seems suspicious, because May and her parents deserve justice. And this man does not deserve to be walking the streets again if he did something like this and he is that violent. I think the best thing we can always do with these cases is sharing them out so more people see them, so more people are talking about this, so hopefully more information can come out. So if you want to share my video or any other videos or links or articles about this case, I'll have more stuff linked down below. I definitely recommend doing so. And as always, let me know if there are any cases you want me to look into and cover. And I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I will see you in the next case.